Sublime Soiree. I'm Sue.
And I'm Linda, and we are so excited today to be dialoguing with our dads, and in a moment we'll be introducing you to them. But last week we had the opportunity to have a mother-daughter roundtable with our moms and our daughters and glean the wisdom that they've learned throughout their lives. And we pray that that has just been extremely encouraging to you and has given you an opportunity to really look at the gift of motherhood and the gift of family and the gift of having those VIPs close to you around the table. Now today, as we said, we get to dialogue with our dads, and we're so excited about that. And I am happy to introduce you to my dad, Tom.
And my dad, Jim.
And we are looking forward to asking them some very neat questions here that's going to give us a little insight into their lives and into their hearts. And we know it will be an encouragement to you. So, gentlemen, first question. What was your childhood like?
We passed that childhood on to someone else. No, it was mine was a difficult, rough childhood out in Montana, out in the country,
Okay.
long ways from nowhere. A rural ranch life, quiet. We were poor. It was depression, drought. Depression was early years, and so it was very difficult. And then you could throw in drinking and divorce in that too. But it was a difficult life. But it was the one we knew.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My childhood was kind of weird, but I get my wander instincts from when I was 3 years old. I pedaled a tricycle about 3 miles on a main highway until some lady in a florist shop came out and said, "What are you doing here?" Because she didn't know me from Adam. And then we moved away from that particular area out to a town called Stowe, Ohio. And I had a wonderful childhood there. We lived next door to a cemetery, and we played hide and seek in the cemetery. And in the lower lots of the cemetery, we played basketball and football and baseball, and it was just a wonderful time. So,
Yeah. Dad liked to go exploring, didn't you?
yes.
And you still do.
I still do.
When you think about a fork in the road in your life, what was it and why did you choose that particular path? What happy memory would you cherish forever?
Yes, that was a long ways here from childhood. I was about 19 years old, and we had sold the ranch. We had country school, not enough students, couldn't afford a teacher too far from here, so we went to the city. And in the city, then that was a faster life and a very different life. But I began then to get into, my folks were very busy, and so we had quite a bit of freedom. And I would get into a lot of things, and I was getting into more trouble. In fact, did a lot of athletics, rodeo and boxing, football, but mainly I was getting in some trouble and more trouble, and I just seemed not to be able to. I wanted to just have fun and do whatever, but not to hurt anybody, to do the right thing, and that wasn't working. I was running into a lot of headaches and heartaches, and so I finally just said, well, first of all, we had then you would hear about evangelists and Christian meetings, and right in the school we had evangelistic meetings, and I heard Billy Graham with Youth for Christ, very active, and I heard the gospel for the first time. Our family was a heathen family in the sense of no no religion. We're sort of Catholic because we're Irish, but nothing. And so so it was new to us, and I was just immediately struck with the need of forgiveness. I guess is what I really to realize that Jesus died for me in my place. That just kind of broke me first time in my life to realize, wow, and that He would forgive me, and so I didn't know how to pray. Never, prayer was not involved in my life or our family, so I didn't know what to say really. But some aunt had taught me to Hail Mary, full of grace, blessed art thou among women, and memorize prayer like that. And I said, no, that's not going to work because that's not my life at all. And so finally I said, well, Lord, I don't know if you're real, but if you're real and you could love me and forgive me, I'd do anything you want. And He must. And you could get me out of trouble, which was not a part of that too, but not a good part of Gets a Prayer. It was a kind of bargain thing. But because of His love, He let that go, and I, for me, it was just that immediate. I just felt forgiven for the first time in my life, right with God, right with everyone else. Cloud nine. It was fantastic. Let's go. And so that was the great change, and it was even a decision that affected my whole previous and afterlife, after later years. That because even as a child, we're out in the ranch, and no one ever come out and told us. And only 2 men ever came to our home and used God's name except in swearing. And so we never heard and I said, now somebody should tell these people. I felt really bad. We didn't know, and whole first part of my life was gone in the sense of really purpose and really and peace. And so I had that feeling that somebody ought to tell those who never hear, and which subsequent led to giving my life to in mission work, but that was all connected at that time. So that would be, without question, the greatest event. And the last part of that question was
A happy
happiness and
memory
joy.
that you would cherish forever.
That's the happiness right there. Was first time of a sense of forgiveness and right with God and right with everyone else, and headed for heaven, and those are not assurances or knowledge or either one that I had before. So yeah, definitely happiest as well as most important.
Yeah. How about you, Dad? A fork in the road that you
road.
came to that really just
Well, after
caused you to go down a particular path.
yeah, after a teenager that I was, like Jim, I sometimes got in trouble, mainly with my parents, because I didn't do a straight line, and but I decided after all the stuff I went through, I joined the Navy. And I was in the Navy for 4 years. Actually had 2 years of reserve time, and but 6 years altogether in the Navy. And being mostly on the West Coast, I loved California for some reason. So after a while, we moved. I got married and moved out there, and we stayed in California for 12 years, and then came back to Ohio via
Louisiana.
So it was a good time.
That definitely changed. Yeah, that Navy really.
Yeah.
Your time in the Navy definitely did some major changes for you.
Right.
So,
Right.
what was one of your happiest memories that you'll cherish forever?
Well, a buddy of mine was was taking a gal out and to a Goodyear dance down in Columbus, or in Columbus, and he wanted somebody to go with him. Well, he called me and said, "Do you want to go down to Columbus to this dance?" And I said, "I don't have anybody to go with." And he said, "Well, I'll ask my girlfriend to see what she says." So she introduced me to my wife, Frida. And that started a whole new relationship. And after a few years, we got married. So that was a happy, I think,
Yeah.
thing that happened to me. So
Do you recall what anniversary you're going to be celebrating here in
65.
65?
Yep.
Yes. So I guess the date took.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
If you had to do it over again, would you pursue the same career path?
I don't think I would. Engineering was something that my dad always said, "You have to do this," but I wasn't really comfortable with it. And I mean, I stayed in it all my career, but I still wasn't comfortable with it. I wished I would have gone into business management or business, and used that as in my career. But I didn't do it. Because the engineering seemed like a more steady vocation. So that's the way I did it.
It was a blessing to Bob and me because
Yeah.
you always taught us how to put things together and how things worked. And so
Yeah.
if we ever had a question about how things worked, we just asked Dad, and you could always tell us how everything worked together. So that was part of your engineering. So
Thank you, Beth.
yeah,
That's very
absolutely.
nice.
Well, and Linda's like that. I feel like I ask Linda questions and she can help me out in those areas. So that wisdom is transferred.
Oh,
Maybe.
wow. Okay.
What about you, Dad?
And I have just the opposite. It was without question, the best decision that I ever made, and it was a privilege to be able to make that because I was going nowhere fast, and I kind of pictured my life as like a water slide, and I'm about here, and if I don't make some decision here, some change, or I'm going to get the steep side, which I won't or can't turn back, and so it was. Past time for me to make that, and so wonderfully and happy to make that, and just continued a lot of ups and downs and falls. I wasn't not disciplined and not really followed like I should, and many things but always that was the goal, was to be in missions for the Lord and be committed to Him, and that stayed in that, and has been a tremendous blessing with everything else not being solid and unmoving. It has always been absolute and sure, and that's been wonderful to do that, to see the difficult times especially.
So, Dad, what was your career? What did you do?
I first of all, when I made that decision at 19, I became a Christian, and an older man said to me, "Well, now you like fishing." "Yeah, I like fishing." "So, well, now you've become a fisher of men, and your first challenge here is now go where the fish are, and be prepared to go fishing." Anyway, so I then prior to that, I just wanted to live a wild, fighting sheep, bronc riding kind of life, and so and do whatever, and that's what my dad believed that I should do. In fact, but because of that I had to leave home and going away to college, football scholarship, and then on from there to Chicago to Trinity Seminary, and was ordained and commissioned as a missionary, and along the way there. And then from there I went to Yale University graduate school, and from there then overseas to missionary work with Chinese people. But I learned then there, particularly at Yale, but all along there I learned that where the fish are, are in Asia that many people do not know, but then in India, China, and Indonesia, those three countries, the combined population is nearly as large as the rest of the entire world.
Wow.
Now that's where the fish are. That's where the most people that have never heard the gospel, that's where they live. And so that's really what drew me. And as I said, also because of my ranch experience, no one was telling them, and many people, that they have no knowledge at all. And as I went along, I found that to be more true. That many were open, but just had never heard, never seen a Bible, never been to church, never heard the gospel at all. So.
Wow.
Which is interesting because we live in a culture where I feel like Christian is just thrown around and everyone's a Christian.
That's right.
And
Right.
you go to another country and they've not even heard of who Jesus is.
Never heard of the word. Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly.
What did you discover in the last decade or two that you wished you would have discovered sooner?
I think mostly, I used to think people thought that trees and everything and animals were just, this happened. But I discovered that it wasn't the way it is, that the Lord actually did this for us. And I've always, in the past few decades, like I said, I believe that more and more and more. So He provides, and we should be thankful for it. So
That's amazing, by the way, because when I was probably 6, 7 years old, I'm riding. My dad put me on a horse. I was about 3, and that's all we did, we ride. And so I'm out riding out at night, and I saw the stars. And I've had no training of creation or nothing like that, but the stars were so beautiful and so symmetrical, so spaced. You know, I just said to myself, there's got to be someone behind it all. And I never taught that. I mean, most people say, well, that's not very significant. That's ought to be obvious. But I was never taught that, and so it struck me as the first thing and stayed in my mind that, boy, I wonder if there's not someone behind it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, right.
Right. We were just talking about that ourselves this weekend, just around the house, just looking outside and looking around and thinking, this wasn't by accident. This was definitely intelligent design, right, Dad?
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with us today?
Well, I'm thankful for a beautiful family. It's always nice to hear other people say you have a lovely daughter or you have a wonderful son. Those things always, and a wonderful wife.
Absolutely.
And those things always make me feel good and proud as well. So
Thanks, Dad.
I also really feel privileged is the word I'd use. So a privilege to have, if I go back 50, 75 years, and so, I would never believe in the world that I'd be able to have the things I have, be where I am, that I would be able to not only come to know the Lord, to have blessing of family, and maybe most of all of a purpose and calling. I put it in I'll give you a funny example if I could. I put it in a little box. We used to have Burma shave signs on the road. You got to be old to know this, but Burma shave signs on the road. And they were poems, they were little sayings, important sayings, put in a little 4-piece poem. It's like proper distance to him was bunk. They pulled him out of some guy's trunk. This is the kind of signs they would have, on the road, and they're really funny, and everybody's into that. But anyway, so I thought later my great Christian Burma shave sign would be life is short, death is sure, sin the cause, Christ the cure. And
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
Got to
wonderful.
keep focused on that because it's so wonderful, so memorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Do we have your permission to share that with our friends who see us on social media? Can we tell them about that?
You sure can, and I think you already did. But
Well, we have.
I don't know about
You're
you.
right. We
I
have
don't
done
know how
it
you
on
do
video,
this, but
we might even put it in print if you're okay with that. So that is absolutely a wonderful message.
Yeah.
Well, we just thank you so much for sharing with us. I think
Yeah.
Linda and I would both agree that we have great respect for our fathers and
Yes.
just the influence that they've had in our lives, and we would not be who we were if it were not for your influence. So we thank you much. We want to just remind you that next week we are going to be continuing to talk about what it looks like with the guest list, and we're going to be talking specifically interviewing foster moms and talking about the fatherless and what that looks like and how we can be a part of loving others well and encouraging other people that are in the trenches
Yes.
doing foster care.
Right.
So stay tuned, and in the meantime, we pray that your week is truly sublime and that you do live free above the fray.